Imagine a world where time flows differently, where the present is just a gentle ripple on a vast river, and every moment you breathe is connected to countless echoes of the past. As we settle into this journey together, allow yourself to drift softly through the ages, carried by the quiet currents of history. Our story begins not with the grand monuments or the towering empires that you may have read about in books, but with the subtle, almost invisible stirrings of life itself. Long before cities rose and nations formed, before ink touched parchment or stone was carved into monuments, human beings walked quietly upon the earth, guided by the rhythms of sun, wind, and river. They were small figures in a vast landscape, their lives delicate yet full of meaning, threaded into the fabric of a world that was both wondrous and mysterious. Picture a night sky untouched by the haze of city lights, where the stars shimmer with ancient secrets. Early humans gazed upward, perhaps wondering if those distant points of light were watching them in return. Beneath their feet, the earth whispered in soft murmurs, the rustle of leaves, the distant call of an animal, the gentle lapping of water against riverbanks. Life was fragile, and yet, within that fragility, there was a quiet power. A spark of curiosity, a flicker of creativity, began to stir, setting the stage for a journey that would stretch from stone tools to rockets, from simple shelters to sprawling cities that touch the clouds. In this space, where the known and unknown meet, we find the first stories of humanity. They are etched into cave walls, carried in the rhythms of songs and chants, whispered through generations. These stories are both familiar and elusive, glimpses of lives lived long before history began to be written. Imagine walking slowly through a cave illuminated by flickering firelight, noticing handprints frozen in stone, drawings of animals in motion, abstract patterns whose meaning may never be fully understood. These ancient marks are not just art. They're a dialogue between the past and the present, a bridge between the world we inhabit now and the world that shaped us. As we move forward in time, consider the quiet power of discovery. The first use of fire, the shaping of stone into tools, the gentle unfolding of language. These moments were small, almost imperceptible, yet they carried within them the seeds of all future innovation. Each discovery illuminated the path ahead, turning darkness into light, mystery into understanding. And yet, even in the light of progress, there remained shadows, questions without answers, events whose causes would be lost to time, patterns that would puzzle generations of observers. It is in this balance, between what we know and what we cannot know, that the story of humanity begins to unfold with both clarity and wonder. Imagine the first humans huddled in a shelter against the night, sharing warmth and stories, their voices a soft murmur blending with the wind outside. Life was simple yet profound. Each gesture, each whispered thought, each careful movement in the rhythm of survival was an echo of creativity and intelligence. Over time, these small acts accumulated, layer upon layer, until they became the foundation of communities, cultures, and civilizations. The world was vast, but these early humans were learning to leave their mark upon it, gently, patiently, as though the very act of existence was a quiet meditation on life itself. As we begin this journey from the very beginnings of human history, we invite you to let your mind wander with us. There will be mysteries, some we may never fully understand. There will be triumphs, quiet and grand, etched into the landscape and into memory. From the first spark of consciousness to the delicate patterns of early life, from whispers in the dark to the faint traces of light that guided the way, every step of this journey is a meditation on what it means to be human. So, as you settle in and let the gentle cadence of history unfold around you, imagine walking alongside those first humans, feeling the cool earth beneath your feet and the infinite sky above. Imagine their triumphs, their fears, their quiet moments of reflection, and let yourself drift in the gentle ebb and flow of time. From the shadowed forests and starlit plains to the first flickers of firelight in a cave, This journey invites you to listen, to wonder, and to rest in the calm, unfolding story of humanity. And in that stillness, allow yourself to become part of the continuum, a silent witness to the long, winding river of life, flowing endlessly from the past into the present and carrying softly toward the future. Long before the first cities rose from the earth, before written records chronicled kings and empires, humans were learning to exist in a world vast and untamed. They were wanderers of forests and plains, moving with the rhythms of the seasons, guided by instinct and curiosity. Life was fragile, yet within its fragility lay a quiet brilliance. Each day was a balance between survival and discovery, a delicate dance with nature that demanded attention, patience, and subtle ingenuity. Imagine walking beside them through misty valleys and open savannas, feeling the pulse of the earth beneath your feet, hearing the distant calls of creatures that have long since vanished, and sensing the vastness of a world still largely unknown. In those earliest times, every new skill, every carefully sharpened stone, was an achievement against the quiet tyranny of uncertainty. Fire became a friend, offering warmth against the cold and light against the darkness. With it came the ability to cook, to gather in the evening and share stories, to see the world in a softer, more controllable glow. The discovery of fire was not just a practical triumph. It was the first light cast into the shadows of the human imagination. Around its flickering warmth, humans began to perceive possibilities beyond mere survival. They began to wonder, to plan, and to dream in ways that were subtle, yet profound. The tools they fashioned from stone, bone, and wood were extensions of thought, shaped carefully to meet specific needs. Each hand axe, each spear, each scraping tool tells a story of observation, patience, and ingenuity. These objects were not merely practical. They were the first whispers of human creativity, the tangible evidence of a mind reaching outward into the unknown. In this world, every rock turned, every footprint left in soft earth, every mark etched in bark or bone became a connection to something greater than the individual, a silent communication across generations yet to come. Even in the simplicity of survival, there were mysteries that eluded explanation. Cave paintings, the earliest flickers of artistic expression, offer tantalizing glimpses into human thought, yet their full meanings remain just beyond reach. Were these images created for ritual, for storytelling, or as a way to understand the natural world? Perhaps they were all three, or perhaps they held meanings we may never comprehend. The animals that leap across the cave walls seem to carry life within the stone, frozen in motion, yet full of energy, a bridge between the tangible and the imagined. Every handprint pressed into rock speaks to the human desire to leave a mark, to say, "I was here, I existed, I noticed." Human communities began to form slowly, quietly, in pockets of the earth where resources were plentiful. Families, and eventually larger groups, shared knowledge, skills, and stories. The earliest social structures emerged not in grand declarations, but in subtle arrangements, cooperation in hunting, sharing in shelter, protection against predators. Within these small clusters, humans learned about trust and leadership, about the delicate balance between individuality and the needs of the group. Life was both simple and complex, the light of human ingenuity cutting softly through the shadows of an unpredictable world. Yet for all their progress, humans were intimately aware of the unknown. Night brought not just rest, but the weight of uncertainty. Predators prowled unseen. Storms could strip away months of effort. Illness could strike without warning. And within these dangers lay opportunity, curiosity, problem-solving, and ingenuity. Early humans were forced to look closely at the world, to notice patterns in the movement of animals, the cycles of the moon, the changing seasons. These observations, made quietly, patiently over countless generations, laid the groundwork for understanding the natural world, a foundation that would one day support mathematics, astronomy, and science. In this early period, humans also began to touch upon rituals, perhaps an unconscious attempt to explain what they could not fully understand. Burial practices emerged, showing care and respect for those who had passed, a recognition of the mystery of life and death. Small objects were placed with the deceased, hinting at beliefs about the world beyond what could be seen. These practices, subtle and tentative, suggest that even in the earliest stages of human history, people were seeking connection with forces greater than themselves, trying to impose meaning on the vast, silent world around them. Imagine moving through a sun-dappled forest alongside these first humans. Every sound, the rustle of leaves, the call of a distant bird, the crunch of footsteps on soil, carries significance. Every decision is weighted with consequence. And yet, even in the struggle for survival, there is wonder. The discovery of new plants, the tracking of animals, the first attempts at creating shelter or clothing. Each of these small triumphs marks a gentle expansion of human understanding. The unknown is ever present, a companion and teacher, guiding every cautious step forward. Even as humans struggled against nature, they were beginning to shape it in small ways. Tools allowed them to manipulate their surroundings. Fire enabled controlled warmth and light. Early shelters became refuges not just from the elements, but from fear itself. Slowly, imperceptibly, humans were moving from mere participants in the natural world to creators within it, experimenting with the first forms of technology and social organization. The line between survival and innovation blurred, creating a world where each small action carried significance far beyond its immediate purpose. And throughout it all, there was curiosity, a quiet, insistent drive to understand and to explore. This curiosity was the pulse of human life, guiding the first steps toward the great civilizations that would rise tens of thousands of years later. Every footprint left in soft earth, every mark on a cave wall, every spark of fire cast into the darkness was part of a long, gentle story, a story we are still tracing today. It is a story of resilience, ingenuity, and wonder, a story that whispers softly to us from the depths of time. As we leave the Stone Age behind, we carry with us an understanding of how deeply humans are connected to the world around them and to one another. From these quiet beginnings emerged the potential for art, language, ritual, and community. The journey is only beginning, yet even now, we see the faint outlines of the civilizations that will rise, the ideas that will shape humanity, and the mysteries that will continue to inspire curiosity for generations. And in that soft, lingering sense of awe, we are ready to move forward into the first signs of human settlement, where the story of civilization begins to take root. As humans continue to navigate the vast landscapes of their early world, subtle changes began to shape the way they lived. The nomadic rhythm of life, moving with the herds, following the seasons, and responding to the unpredictable moods of rivers and forests, gradually gave way to something quieter, more deliberate. In certain fertile regions, small groups began to linger, drawn by abundant water, rich soil, and a relative abundance of game. Here, among the soft grasses and gentle slopes, the first hints of permanent human communities emerged. Life was still fragile, still governed by nature's unpredictability. Yet within these small clusters of activity, something extraordinary began to take root. The beginnings of cooperation, shared purpose, and a nascent sense of belonging. These early communities were modest, composed of simple dwellings built from wood, reeds, animal hides, or stone. The structures themselves reflected both practicality and care. A carefully constructed shelter could shield against wind and rain, yet also serve as a gathering place, a space for warmth, food, and conversation. Within these communal spaces, humans discovered the subtle beauty of shared life. They learned to divide tasks, some tending to crops or foraging for edible plants, others crafting tools, maintaining fires, or watching over the young. These early arrangements laid the foundation for social structures that would one day support entire civilizations. Yet they were gentle, almost invisible in their complexity, like the soft ripples on a calm lake. The creation of shared spaces also sparked a deeper form of communication. Language, which had already begun as simple sounds and gestures, became more intricate and purposeful. Stories passed from one individual to another, of hunts, of dangers, of moments of beauty or triumph, became part of the collective memory of the group. Tales of the stars, the rivers, the animals, and the changing seasons were shared around evening fires, their words carrying lessons as well as wonder. These early narratives were more than entertainment. They were the first threads of culture, weaving individuals into a community through shared knowledge, emotion, and imagination. Even as daily life revolved around survival, humans began to experiment with the world around them. Tools evolved beyond mere functionality into objects of refinement and care. Stones were chipped to precise shapes for specific tasks. Bones were carved to create implements that could dig, cut, or scrape with efficiency. Some tools, it seems, were made for no immediate practical purpose, suggesting a quiet human impulse toward creativity, curiosity, and perhaps even beauty. These objects speak to the dual nature of human existence, the constant negotiation between necessity and imagination, between the known and the unknown. Agriculture began to emerge as one of the most profound shifts of this era. Humans began to cultivate plants, selecting seeds from the most abundant or nutritious specimens, gradually learning the delicate art of tending the soil. This small, careful manipulation of nature allowed for a more reliable food supply, giving communities the ability to remain in one place for longer periods. Alongside cultivation came the domestication of animals: dogs, sheep, goats, and cattle, creatures who provided companionship, labor, and nourishment. Life became more predictable, yet it was never entirely free from uncertainty. Crops could fail, rivers could flood, and disease could strike without warning. Even in this relative stability, humans were learning patience, observation, and foresight, the quiet lessons that would echo through generations. With stability came the opportunity for experimentation and ritual. Early humans began to organize their lives around cycles: the rising and setting of the sun, the waxing and waning of the moon, the seasonal migration of animals, and the flowering of plants. These observations became encoded in stories, songs, and symbolic practices. Some early rituals may have been aimed at securing abundant harvests, others at honoring ancestors or marking significant life events. Though we cannot know the full meaning of these practices, they reveal a consciousness reaching beyond the immediate needs of survival. Humans were beginning to see themselves not merely as participants in the natural world, but as observers and interpreters, gently probing the mysteries around them. Trade and exchange, too, began in these early communities, often in subtle forms. A stone tool might travel several miles, pass from one group to another, carrying not only material value, but also knowledge, techniques, and ideas. This quiet network of exchange connected otherwise distant groups, fostering a slow flow of culture and innovation. It was through these small interactions that humans learned cooperation on a larger scale, laying the groundwork for the complex social, economic, and political networks that would emerge thousands of years later. The first villages were small, but they were remarkable in their quiet ingenuity. People learned to store food, to plan for scarcity, and to protect one another. They developed early forms of governance, likely based on respect, experience, or the subtle recognition of wisdom within a group. Leadership was not a matter of conquest, but of guidance, and decisions were informed by observation, dialogue, and trial and error. The structures of early society were delicate, adaptive, and resilient, reflecting the subtle balance between human creativity and the constraints of nature. Even as communities settled, mystery and wonder remained deeply entwined with daily life. Humans noticed patterns they could not explain: strange celestial alignments, the migration of birds, unusual weather, or unexplained markings in stone. These phenomena were recorded in stories, rituals, and symbols, suggesting an early desire to understand the universe beyond the tangible. This balance between known and unknown, light and shadow, practical and mystical, gave life a rhythm both comforting and endlessly fascinating. It is a rhythm that whispers across millennia, a quiet pulse that continues to resonate in every human culture. Imagine walking slowly through one of these early villages as the sun dips below the horizon. Smoke curls gently from small fires. Laughter and conversation drift softly through the air, and the occasional bark of a dog or the lowing of a goat punctuates the stillness. Within the dwellings, families share meals, weave fibers, and tell stories that weave together knowledge, caution, and imagination. Outside, the world stretches endlessly, hills, forests, rivers, reminding these early humans that life is both fragile and beautiful. Each day, they move carefully between survival and innovation, between the practical and the profound, leaving traces that will echo through history. In these first human communities, we can see the origins of almost everything that would follow: cooperation, creativity, agriculture, trade, storytelling, and ritual. The seeds of civilization, though small and delicate, were taking root. And yet, life retained its quiet mysteries, a gentle reminder that the world, no matter how well understood, always contains shadows beyond the firelight. As we move forward, following these early humans from their villages into the wider, more complex world of agriculture and early cities, we carry with us a sense of both intimacy and awe, a sense that even the smallest communities hold the profound beginnings of all human achievement. As humans lingered longer in fertile valleys, tending their fields and caring for domesticated animals, the world began to change in subtle yet profound ways. No longer entirely at the mercy of the wild, communities discovered the power of deliberate cultivation and the quiet rhythm of tending the earth. Fields were sown with careful attention to the cycles of rain and sun, and the selection of seeds marked the earliest conscious shaping of the natural world. Every small act, planting, watering, weeding, was a dialogue between human intention and the silent forces of nature, a negotiation that required patience, observation, and an almost meditative presence. The land, once an unpredictable host, became both partner and teacher in the gradual unfolding of civilization. With the advent of agriculture came a transformation of human experience. Life was no longer defined solely by movement and pursuit, but by stability, routine, and the slow accumulation of knowledge. Humans learned to anticipate the seasons, to understand the soil, and to predict the behaviors of the animals around them. This stability allowed the first hints of leisure and creativity to emerge. Pottery, weaving, and simple artistry became expressions of human thought and imagination, gently enriching daily life. Even in these small creations, there's a sense of reverence for the material world, an acknowledgement that beauty and function can coexist in quiet harmony. The rise of agriculture naturally led to the formation of larger settlements. Huts clustered into villages, villages expanded into towns, and these towns began to form the first recognizable cities. Streets and pathways appeared almost unconsciously, guiding the flow of people, animals, and goods. Wells and storage pits were dug, communal spaces emerged, and boundaries were drawn, both for protection and for organization. In these early urban landscapes, the delicate interplay between human ingenuity and the natural world became increasingly evident. Every structure, every pathway, every carefully planned field reflected the understanding that life could be shaped, controlled, and improved without erasing the rhythms of nature. Trade and exchange flourished in these early cities, connecting people not only to resources but also to ideas. Grains, pottery, tools, and textiles traveled from one settlement to another, and with them came knowledge, techniques, and cultural practices. These early networks were subtle yet powerful, linking distant communities and fostering a shared sense of human identity. The movement of goods became a gentle current, a quiet reminder that even in times long past, Humans were drawn to cooperation and communication, and that civilization itself grows not only through labor, but through connection. With the accumulation of surplus food and the security of stable settlements came new challenges and mysteries. The population grew, and with growth came organization, leadership, and social hierarchies. Questions arose. Who would decide how resources were shared? How would conflicts be resolved? Early forms of governance were subtle and adaptive, often relying on wisdom, experience, or communal consensus. Yet even as society became more structured, there remained mysteries and uncertainties. Illness, drought, and other natural forces continued to test human ingenuity, reminding communities that despite all effort, the world retained its shadowed corners beyond the reach of understanding. The development of writing marked another quiet revolution within these early cities. Symbols, first etched on clay tablets, slowly evolve into systems capable of recording trade, history, and stories. This newfound ability to preserve knowledge transformed human experience. Ideas could now transcend the limitations of memory, passing through generations with greater fidelity. Writing also opened the door to reflection, contemplation, and imagination. Suddenly, humans could record not just the practical details of survival, but also myths, prayers, and observations about the world, early attempts to make sense of existence itself. Architecture began to emerge as a reflection of both utility and aspiration. Granaries, temples, and public spaces rose from simple foundations, signaling both the permanence and ambition of early civilizations. These structures were not merely functional. They were expressions of collective identity, a way for communities to leave tangible imprints on the landscape. Monumental, yet intimate, they spoke to a deep human desire to create, to endure, and to communicate with those who would come after. The spaces between buildings, the pathways that connected them, the courtyards and meeting areas, all formed the living tapestry of a civilization quietly discovering its own potential. Amid this growing complexity, humans continued to observe the world with curiosity and awe. The heavens above, with their predictable yet mysterious movements, inspired early astronomy and ritual. Celestial cycles were noted, perhaps to guide planting, celebrate festivals, or seek understanding of forces beyond human control. The natural world was studied with careful attention. Patterns in animal behavior, the flow of rivers, and the subtle signs of seasonal change. In this attention to detail, the seeds of scientific thought were planted long before the term science would exist. The act of observing, recording, and interpreting became a gentle meditation on existence itself. Even as civilization grew, uncertainty and mystery remained inseparable from daily life. The origins of disease, the forces behind storms, the reasons for sudden droughts or flooding. All these events were largely beyond human control, inspiring both reverence and fear. Ritual, prayer, and early forms of spirituality became intertwined with practical life, offering comfort and a sense of connection to forces larger than the individual. These practices, delicate and nuanced, reveal the early human attempt to reconcile the tangible and intangible, the known and the unknown, the light of understanding and the shadow of mystery. Imagine walking slowly through one of these early cities at dawn. Smoke curls gently from ovens and hearths. Children move quietly through narrow pathways, and the first light of sun glints off the rooftops. Farmers tend the fields outside the city walls, while artisans shape clay, bone, and wood into tools and objects of beauty. Traders move along the streets, exchanging goods, stories, and ideas, linking one community with another. Every gesture, every movement, every interaction speaks of the delicate balance between survival, creativity, and cooperation, a rhythm that will echo through the millennia. In these early urban spaces, the human capacity for imagination and foresight became increasingly visible. Communities were not just surviving. They were shaping their environment, leaving visible traces of thought, culture, and aspiration. Early temples, communal spaces, and fortifications were as much about identity and shared memory as they were about practical function. Humans were discovering that life could be both orderly and beautiful, both functional and meaningful. Each city, each village, each cultivated field was a testament to the quiet power of human ingenuity and the persistent curiosity that drives us to leave our mark upon the world. The birth of agriculture and the emergence of cities remind us that human progress is rarely sudden or dramatic. It is a gentle accumulation of knowledge, observation, and cooperation. Each act, no matter how small, contributes to the unfolding story of civilization. From planting seeds in the soil to constructing the first granaries, humans were learning to shape their world while remaining intimately aware of its mysteries. Light and shadow, certainty and uncertainty, practicality and imagination, all existed side by side, creating the delicate tension that makes human history so compelling and so endlessly fascinating. As we leave the first cities behind, we carry with us an awareness of both their achievements and the enduring questions they leave behind. We have seen how humans transitioned from wandering, fragile bands of survivalists to settled communities capable of shaping their environment and each other. The seeds of trade, governance, writing, and spirituality have been sown, and the stage is set for the rise of empires, grand, ambitious, and full of both light and shadow. And in this quiet reflection, we are reminded that even in the earliest chapters of human civilization, curiosity, ingenuity, and mystery walk hand in hand, guiding each step forward through the gentle unfolding of time. As human communities grew in complexity and confidence, certain regions began to gather extraordinary power. The fertile valleys of Mesopotamia, the broad Nile floodplains, and the vast expanses of the Indus Valley became cradles of early empires. These emerging civilizations were remarkable not only for their size and organization, but for the delicate balance they maintained between order and unpredictability. Every city, every administrative structure, every monumental building was a testament to human ingenuity, a conscious attempt to shape the world and create permanence within a universe that remained largely mysterious. The contrast between human ambition and nature's enduring unpredictability gave these early empires a sense of both awe and fragility. In Mesopotamia, humans transformed the land through irrigation, harnessing the power of rivers to sustain fields and feed growing populations. With this abundance came the need for governance, for rules and leaders capable of organizing labor and resolving disputes. Cities like Uruk, Ur, and Babylon rose from mud bricks, their walls and ziggurats reaching upward as expressions of human aspiration. Within these walls, commerce, art, and spirituality flourished side by side. Temples and shrines reflected not only religious devotion, but also the subtle interweaving of political authority and cultural identity. Here, humans were learning that power, while potent, was also precarious, dependent on cooperation, foresight, and the unpredictable favor of the natural world. Along the Nile, the rhythm of the river dictated life, and the Egyptians learned to move in harmony with its cycles. Agriculture, architecture, and administration were all finely tuned to the floodwaters' annual rise and fall. Pharaohs, regarded as intermediaries between gods and humans, embodied both the light of civilization and the shadow of mortality. The pyramids, built with painstaking care, captured the human desire to leave a lasting mark, to touch eternity even in the face of uncertainty. And yet, even these grand achievements carried fragility. Floods could fail, disease could strike, and political upheaval could unravel centuries of carefully constructed order. Each success was a whisper of triumph, each failure a reminder of impermanence. In the Indus Valley, sprawling cities like Mohenjo-daro and Harappa reveal a different rhythm of life, marked by remarkable planning and uniformity. Streets were laid with careful precision, drainage systems flowed beneath homes, and markets thrived with the exchange of goods and ideas. Yet much about these civilizations remains mysterious. Their script has yet to be fully deciphered, leaving us with tantalizing glimpses of their culture and beliefs. The precision of their urban planning contrasts with the elusiveness of their story, highlighting the delicate interplay between human knowledge and enduring mystery. Even as they mastered the material world, the deeper meaning of their lives, their thoughts, and their rituals remains partially hidden, inviting quiet reflection. Across these early empires, social hierarchies emerged, gently structuring human interactions and responsibilities. Leaders, priests, and skilled artisans occupied positions of influence, while farmers, laborers, and herders formed the foundation of society. These arrangements allowed for specialization and efficiency, enabling monumental construction, organized trade, and complex religious practices. Yet hierarchies also revealed fragility. When balance faltered, social unrest could destabilize even the most meticulously organized empire. Power, it seemed, was always a careful negotiation between human ambition and the subtle forces of nature, circumstance, and human relationships. Trade became a lifeline connecting distant empires, creating networks that transported not only goods, but also ideas, technologies, and cultural practices. Exotic materials traveled along rivers, deserts, and seas, carrying with them knowledge of techniques, beliefs, and innovations from afar. These quiet currents of connection helped shape the growth of empires, fostering creativity and adaptability. Yet, along with opportunity came vulnerability. The same routes that brought abundance could also bring conflict, disease, or the unpredictable influence of foreign powers. In this interweaving of light and shadow, human societies learned that connectivity was both a strength and a subtle risk. Religion and ritual played a central role in early empires, offering comfort, guidance, and a framework for understanding the unknown. Temples, pyramids, and ziggurats were not only architectural marvels, but also vessels of human thought, connecting earthly life with the mysteries of the cosmos. Priests, shamans, and spiritual leaders guided communities through uncertainty, interpreting celestial patterns, seasonal shifts, and inexplicable events. Rituals served to strengthen social cohesion, to celebrate life and honor the dead, and to frame human existence within the grand, often incomprehensible rhythms of the universe. These practices reveal a humanity seeking meaning in both the known and unknown, weaving light and shadow into the fabric of everyday life. Even amidst monumental achievements, fragility persisted. Empires rose and fell with remarkable regularity, often leaving behind only whispers of their existence. The collapse of cities, the abandonment of settlements, or the sudden disappearance of entire populations reminds us that human power is never absolute. The forces of nature, floods, droughts, earthquakes, and the unpredictability of human behavior could unravel the most carefully constructed plans. This awareness of impermanence, quietly present in every civilization, infuses the story of early empires with a haunting beauty, a sense that even our greatest accomplishments exist within the delicate, shifting balance of the world. Art and culture flourished in parallel with political and economic structures, offering glimpses into the human heart and imagination. Sculpture, pottery, jewelry, and textile work reveal not only skill, but also the desire to express identity, belief, and aspiration. Music and dance, though lost to the written record, undoubtedly filled the air, binding communities together through rhythm and ritual. These expressions were subtle yet enduring forms of power, proof that even amidst uncertainty, humans sought to leave traces of their presence, their thought, and their wonder. The light of human creativity illuminated the shadowed edges of the unknown, offering glimpses of understanding and connection. The mysteries of these empires remain compelling. Why did some cities flourish while others vanished? What rituals were performed within the secret chambers of temples? What thoughts passed through the minds of rulers, artisans, and ordinary people, never recorded, yet quietly shaping history. These unanswered questions create a tension that invites reflection and imagination, a sense that history is both tangible and elusive. Light and shadow, known and unknown, triumph and fragility, all coexist within the story of these early civilizations, shaping the narrative in subtle and profound ways. Imagine walking slowly through the streets of an ancient city at twilight. Smoke rises from hearths as people finish their daily tasks. Traders negotiate softly. Children move quietly through narrow alleys, and the distant silhouette of a ziggurat or pyramid glows in the fading light. Every stone, every pathway, every carefully built wall speaks of human ingenuity, ambition, and care. Yet the air carries a sense of impermanence, a reminder that even these achievements exist within a vast, unpredictable world. In this quiet balance, humans discovered the delicate interplay between power and fragility, between the desire to endure and the inevitability of change. Through the rise of empires, we witness the remarkable capacity of humans to organize, create, and aspire while remaining intimately connected to the uncertainties of life. Civilization, though grand and ambitious, is fragile, sustained by the balance between cooperation, resourcefulness, and adaptation. Empires are both monuments of light and reminders of shadow, enduring symbols of human creativity and ambition, yet always vulnerable to the quiet, inexorable forces that shape existence. As we leave the first great empires behind, we carry forward the understanding that power, like all human endeavor, is both beautiful and transient, a theme that will echo throughout the unfolding story of history. As the great empires of the ancient world rose and fell, a new kind of light began to emerge, one that did not shine from walls or monuments, but from the human mind itself. In cities and courts across Greece, China, and India, individuals began to observe, question, and reflect in ways that stretched far beyond the practicalities of survival. Their curiosity was quiet yet insistent, a gentle probing of the universe and the human place within it. They looked at the patterns of nature, the rhythms of society, and the complexities of thought, seeking understanding where once only mystery had existed. Philosophy, science, and spirituality began to intertwine, forming the earliest threads of human inquiry that would echo across millennia. In Greece, thinkers like Thales, Pythagoras, and Socrates opened pathways of reason, logic, and reflection. They examined not only the natural world, but the principles of human behavior, morality, and justice. Questions that had once been left to instinct and tradition were now explored deliberately, with patience and attention. What is virtue? What is truth? How does one live a life of meaning? These were not just questions for the scholars. They were invitations for all who listened to engage with the mysteries of existence. Within the bustling agora or the quiet colonnades of a temple, ideas moved like whispers on the wind, carried from mind to mind, slowly shaping the foundations of thought. Meanwhile, in the vast lands of China, thinkers such as Confucius and Laozi contemplated the rhythms of human life and the natural world. They sought harmony between the individual, society, and the cosmos, teaching that the patterns of nature could guide human conduct. These early reflections encouraged balance, patience, and observation, virtues that resonate not only in ethics but in daily life. As rivers flowed steadily to the sea, so too did the insights of these philosophers ripple outward, influencing generations and creating a subtle undercurrent of thought that would guide societies in ways both visible and unseen. In India, sages and scholars turned their gaze inward as well as outward, exploring the mind, the cosmos, and the nature of consciousness. They developed complex philosophical and spiritual systems, contemplating the mysteries of life, death, and the cycles that connect all beings. Meditation, ritual, and reflection became tools to understand both the external world and the inner self, revealing the interconnectedness of thought, action, and the universe. These explorations, while quiet and contemplative, were profound in their implications, hinting at the power of human insight to bridge the seen and unseen, the known and unknown. Across these civilizations, education and the pursuit of knowledge became central to human life. Schools, academies, and informal gatherings allowed ideas to be shared, tested, and refined. Students listened, debated, and reflected under the guidance of teachers whose wisdom combined observation, reasoning, and intuition. This quiet cultivation of the mind illustrates a turning point in human history. The recognition that the intellect itself could be shaped, disciplined, and used to illuminate the shadows of uncertainty. Knowledge became both a practical tool and a form of meditation, a way to navigate the complexities of existence with curiosity and calm. Art, too, reflected the awakening of human consciousness. In Greece, sculpture and architecture reached new heights of proportion, beauty, and expression. In China and India, painting, poetry, and music explored the subtleties of emotion, philosophy, and the natural world. These creations were not merely aesthetic. They were contemplative exercises, ways of interpreting experience, observing the patterns of life, and capturing the fleeting beauty of the present. Each brushstroke, chisel mark, or musical phrase carries with it a quiet reflection on existence, an attempt to reconcile the tangible with the ineffable. Even as knowledge expanded, mystery remained at the heart of human inquiry. The stars above, the flow of rivers, the movements of animals, and the workings of the human mind all presented puzzles that could not be fully solved. Philosophers embraced these unknowns, not as failures, but as invitations to wonder. Questions without definitive answers became part of the fabric of thought, reminding listeners that the pursuit of understanding is itself a journey, a slow, patient, and meditative process that engages both the mind and the soul. Light and shadow, certainty and doubt, coexist in this awakening of human consciousness, creating a rhythm that continues to echo across time. Daily life in these societies reflected the integration of observation and reflection. In marketplaces, temples, and courtyards, humans engage with ideas as much as with necessities. Ethical considerations influence trade, governance, and family life. Rituals and ceremonies, informed by both belief and observation, created rhythm and structure within communities. Even ordinary tasks, planting, harvesting, crafting, or cooking, could be approached with mindfulness, a recognition that the small details of life are intertwined with larger patterns of meaning. In this way, the human mind awakened not just to abstract thought, but to a heightened awareness of the world and the self. These civilizations also recognized the importance of recording knowledge. Texts, inscriptions, and manuscripts preserved ideas that might otherwise have been lost to time. From the dialogues of philosophers to the commentaries of scholars, the written word became a bridge between generations, allowing insights and questions to travel across centuries. Writing became both a practical and contemplative act, enabling humans to extend their understanding beyond immediate experience, to explore possibilities, and to leave a trace of reflection for those yet to come. Even amidst remarkable intellectual achievements, humans remained acutely aware of uncertainty and limitation. Wars, natural disasters, and social upheaval tested societies, reminding them that knowledge is never absolute. Yet it is precisely within this tension between light and shadow, certainty and mystery, that philosophy and contemplation thrive. Human thought grew not in isolation, but in response to the unknown, shaped by both observation and imagination. This delicate balance between what can be known and what must be pondered creates a profound sense of depth, inviting reflection that is calm, patient, and meditative. Imagine walking along the streets of an ancient city as the sun dips low, casting long shadows across stone columns and courtyards. Teachers speak softly to attentive students, their words carrying the weight of observation, reason, and imagination. Artisans carve, paint, and mold with quiet focus, while poets recite lines that capture both the beauty and mystery of life. The air is filled with a sense of purpose, yet also of wonder, an understanding that existence is vast, complex, and worthy of contemplation. Within these rhythms, the human mind awakens fully, engaging with the world not only as a place of survival, but as a canvas for thought, reflection, and discovery. Through this awakening, we see the roots of almost every intellectual, scientific, and artistic pursuit that humanity would later embrace. Mathematics, astronomy, ethics, literature, music, and philosophy all grow from this quiet period of reflection and inquiry. The human mind learns to embrace both the known and the unknown, to cultivate curiosity, and to balance reasoning with imagination. Light and shadow, certainty and mystery, observation and reflection, all converge in a subtle, meditative harmony, guiding humanity forward while preserving the wonder that first sparked thought itself. As we leave this period of philosophers and dreamers behind, we carry with us the awareness that knowledge is both a tool and a meditation, that understanding is enriched by mystery, and that the human mind has always sought to illuminate the shadows of existence. From the contemplation of the stars to the analysis of society, from quiet reflection to shared dialogue, this awakening of thought lays the foundation for the journeys yet to come. And as we move forward into the currents of history, we carry the gentle rhythm of inquiry, curiosity, and reflection, a quiet pulse that continues to guide humanity across time. As the centuries passed, the ideas and innovations of ancient civilizations began to ripple quietly across the world, like gentle currents flowing beneath the surface of human life. Knowledge traveled not only through conquest or migration, but through subtler means, through trade, shared rituals, and the movement of people and animals along rivers, roads, and caravans. These currents connected distant communities, sometimes in ways too delicate to notice at first, yet powerful enough to shape the rhythm of cultures and the unfolding of history. Even in places untouched by empire or city, these subtle influences began to leave traces, whispers of understanding that would slowly accumulate into the next great waves of human development. The movement of goods and ideas created a delicate web that linked disparate regions. Traders carried not just grains, textiles, and tools, but stories, techniques, and beliefs. A single artifact could travel hundreds of miles, carrying with it knowledge that would quietly inspire artisans and thinkers far from its origin. Likewise, language and oral traditions traveled with travelers, weaving patterns of shared culture across valleys, deserts, and mountains. In this way, the world became slowly more interconnected, yet without the urgency or grandeur often associated with empires. It was a quiet, persistent flow, a rhythm that shaped the human experience in subtle and lasting ways. Alongside these material exchanges, spiritual and philosophical ideas spread with equal grace. Religious practices, moral teachings, and contemplative wisdom moved from one community to another, sometimes absorbed, sometimes adapted, and sometimes merging with local customs. The cycles of festivals, rituals, and seasonal ceremonies created points of convergence, where humans could meet, observe, and learn from each other. Even small villages, far from the centers of power, were touched by these currents of thought, adopting elements that reflected both curiosity and the universal human desire to understand life, mortality, and the forces beyond comprehension. This period was not marked by dramatic events or sweeping conquests, but by patience and observation. It is the quiet accumulation of knowledge, habit, and reflection that allowed civilizations to grow without immediate notice. Humans were learning that their lives, while shaped by the natural world, could also be shaped by shared ideas and collaboration. Simple innovations in agriculture, weaving, and pottery traveled between regions, improving daily life and planting seed for more complex developments in the future. Knowledge became a living current, moving slowly but persistently, preparing the stage for the transformations that would follow in the medieval world. Even as these currents flowed, the natural world remained an ever-present teacher. Rivers, mountains, and forests guided human movement and settlement, shaping the patterns of culture and the rhythms of labor. Observing the cycles of the seasons, humans refined agricultural practices. Noticing the behavior of animals, they enhanced hunting and domestication techniques. Nature's subtle guidance reminded humans that, even as they built cities and empires, they remained part of a larger ecosystem, one that demanded patience, humility, and respect. The quiet interplay between human innovation and natural forces created a rhythm both gentle and profound, a pulse that continues to resonate through history. Amidst these quiet currents, connections were not only practical but also cultural. Music, storytelling, and craft traveled with merchants and travelers, influencing distant communities and inspiring local adaptation. Artifact from one region would appear in another, sometimes bearing subtle symbols whose meanings were known only to those who created them. These shared threads created a tapestry of human experience, binding people together across space and time while maintaining the mystery and beauty of local traditions. Knowledge and culture became living rivers, flowing beneath the surface of daily life, linking humanity in ways both tangible and unseen. Imagine walking along one of these ancient trade routes at dawn, the soft light catching on the contours of hills and rivers. Caravans move steadily along dusty paths, their animals carrying goods, ideas, and stories from one village to the next. A distant temple bell rings, signaling the start of daily rituals. Travelers pause to share news, exchange techniques, or recount tales of the world beyond. Every small interaction, every careful observation, every exchange of goods and knowledge contributes to the subtle currents shaping human history. Though quiet and almost invisible, these currents have profound effects, connecting societies and preparing them for the changes yet to come. As we reflect on this period, we notice the elegance of slow transformation. Civilizations did not leap suddenly from one stage to another. They moved with patience, guided by observation, interaction, and reflection. These quiet currents of change are the gentle threads that weave together the tapestry of human experience. They remind us that history is not only the story of great leaders or dramatic events, but also the story of subtle connections, shared curiosity, and the patient accumulation of knowledge across time and space. And as we move forward into the Middle Ages, we carry with us the awareness that even the smallest currents can guide the course of human life, connecting past and future in ways that are both delicate and enduring. The medieval world stretches before us like a vast tapestry, woven with threads of shadow and light. It was a period of contrasts, moments of profound darkness intertwined with flickers of innovation, faith, and artistry. Castles and monasteries rose along riverbanks, atop hills, and within valleys, their stones both protective and symbolic, standing as sentinels against uncertainty. For many, life was dictated by the rhythms of seasons, the work of the fields, and the quiet endurance of daily survival. Yet even within these constraints, human imagination found ways to shine, illuminating corners of existence with art, architecture, and thought that transcended the ordinary. Feudal systems structured society with remarkable precision, defining roles and obligations with subtle rigidity. Lords and vassals, peasants and serfs, each understood their place within a larger rhythm, a social choreography balancing labor, protection, and loyalty. The framework was both stabilizing and restrictive. It offered security for some, but imposed limitations on others. Life followed cycles of sowing and harvest, the ebb and flow of seasons providing rhythm and predictability. Yet beneath this structured surface, currents of curiosity, dissent, and creativity moved quietly. hinting at change and progress that would slowly reshape the world. In towns and villages, markets became centers of life and exchange. Merchants traveled from far-flung regions, bringing not only goods but ideas and stories. Spices, fabrics, metals, and knowledge flowed along these routes, linking communities in subtle yet transformative ways. Craftsmanship flourished as artisans honed skills passed down through generations, blending tradition with personal insight. Every woven textile, carved door, or painted fresco was a reflection of the human desire to create beauty even amidst the demands and uncertainties of everyday existence. The quiet persistence of these efforts illuminated the continuity of human ingenuity across centuries. Religion cast both light and shadow across the medieval world. Cathedrals, mosques, and temples reached skyward, their soaring arches and intricate carvings embodying devotion and aspiration. Monasteries became centers of learning, preserving the knowledge of previous civilizations, copying manuscripts, and recording observations about the natural world. At the same time, faith could be rigid and hierarchical, enforcing rules that limited expression or punished deviation. Yet within this duality, humanity sought meaning, comfort, and understanding in a world still filled with uncertainty. Rituals, prayers, and contemplative practices provided structure and reassurance, a gentle rhythm that anchored communities amidst the unpredictable tides of life. The medieval period was also marked by profound exploration of thought and knowledge. Scholars, monks, and philosophers engaged with the wisdom of ancient civilizations, translating texts from Greek, Arabic, and Sanskrit into local languages. Universities emerged in Europe, centers of reflection and study where the human mind could wander freely among questions of logic, ethics, and a natural world. In the Islamic world, scholars preserved and expanded upon the sciences, mathematics, and medicine, creating a quiet but powerful current of understanding that would later influence distant lands. These efforts demonstrate the persistent human impulse to illuminate the shadows of ignorance with a steady glow of learning. Even as societies sought stability and meaning, uncertainty remained ever present. Famine, plague, and conflict cast long shadows, testing resilience and ingenuity. The Black Death, for instance, swept across Europe, leaving devastation in its wake, reshaping communities, economies, and thought. Yet, within tragedy, humanity adapted. Social structures evolved, new economic systems emerged, and philosophical reflection deepened. These patterns of loss and recovery reveal a persistent tension between fragility and endurance, a rhythm that defines human history across centuries. Art and culture flourished alongside these challenges, offering subtle light within the shadows. Illuminated manuscripts, delicate tapestries, and intricate sculptures captured both spiritual devotion and worldly curiosity. Music filled halls and cathedrals, blending the sacred and the secular, weaving oral landscapes that connected communities across time. Poetry, storytelling, and oral traditions preserved memory, transmitted knowledge, and nurtured imagination. Even in a period often described as dark, the creative spirit remained vibrant, illuminating the world with beauty, reflection, and expression. Trade and exploration slowly expanded the boundaries of known worlds. Maritime ventures along rivers, seas, and oceans introduced new goods, ideas, and cultures, connecting distant regions in quiet but significant ways. Compass, astrolabe, and map gradually turned uncertainty into possibility, allowing humans to navigate beyond familiar horizons. Each voyage, whether across a river or a continent, carried the promise of discovery, a reminder that light can emerge even within shadows, and that curiosity persists even amidst the constraints of society and circumstance. Education, too, became increasingly valued, shaping both individual and collective life. In Europe, universities fostered the study of philosophy, law, medicine, and theology. In Asia, centers of learning preserved and expanded upon mathematics, astronomy, literature, and medicine. Education became a bridge between the known and unknown, a gentle illumination of mystery that encouraged both reflection and application. Through careful observation, disciplined study, and quiet contemplation, humans began to see patterns, understand principles, and explore ideas that would one day spark Renaissance innovation. Imagine walking through a medieval town at twilight. Smoke rises gently from hearths, mingling with the scent of herbs and baked bread. Children play quietly in courtyards. Artisans work diligently in workshops, and monks chant softly in distant monasteries. Stone walls, narrow streets, and arching bridges create a rhythm of light and shadow, guiding the eye and calming the mind. The world is structured, yet alive with subtle currents of curiosity, creativity, and reflection. Each element, the architecture, the sounds, the movement of people, speaks of the persistent human desire to thrive, create, and understand, even when life is fraught with uncertainty. In the shadows and light of the medieval world, we witness the delicate balance between continuity and change. Societies held fast to tradition while slowly evolving in response to innovation, exploration, and reflection. Light emerged in the preservation of knowledge, the creation of art, and the growth of commerce, even as shadow persisted in the form of disease, conflict, and limitation. This interplay forms a rhythm that continues to resonate, a gentle reminder that human history is a story of adaptation, perseverance, and quiet illumination amidst uncertainty. As we prepare to leave the medieval world behind, we carry with us the understanding that even within periods of constraint or darkness, human creativity, curiosity, and reflection endure. Every trade route, manuscript, musical note, and architectural detail speaks to the patient accumulation of knowledge and culture, bridging centuries and civilizations. And in this quiet interweaving of shadow and light, we are ready to move forward into the Renaissance, where the human spirit will stretch even further into curiosity, discovery, and imagination. The Renaissance unfolds as a gentle dawn after the long medieval night, a period where light begins to touch the edges of the known world, illuminating curiosity, creativity, and human potential. It is a time of rediscovery, with a knowledge of ancient civilizations, Greek, Roman, Islamic, and beyond, is carefully retrieved, studied, and cherished. Scholars and artists alike turn their attention to the mysteries of nature, the human form, and the cosmos. In this quiet resurgence of thought, the seeds of the modern world are carefully sown, guided by both observation and imagination, by reason and wonder, by the light of human intellect and the shadow of the unknown that still stretches beyond comprehension. Across Italy, centers like Florence, Venice, and Rome become luminous hubs of innovation and contemplation. Artists such as Leonardo da Vinci and Michelangelo study anatomy, light, and perspective, revealing the hidden intricacies of the human body and the natural world. Their work is meticulous, patient, and meditative, capturing not only form but essence. The interplay of light and shadow, both on physical surfaces and in human experience. Sculptures, paintings, and architecture from this period reflect a harmony of observation, skill, and imagination, bridging the gap between material reality and human aspiration. Even the quietest brushstroke or carved contour carries with it a whisper of discovery, an invitation to see the world with fresh eyes. Meanwhile, philosophers and scientists begin to challenge long-held assumptions, asking questions that shift the boundaries of understanding. Copernicus gazes at the heavens and envisions a sun-centered universe. Galileo observes the stars and the moons of Jupiter, recording phenomena that deepen humanity's grasp of the cosmos. These thinkers, often working quietly and cautiously within their studies, illuminate the vast unknown, revealing patterns that were once invisible to the unaided eye. In doing so, They remind us that the pursuit of knowledge is a delicate dialogue between curiosity and patience, between the tangible and the mysterious, between light and shadow. The rediscovery of ancient texts fuels this awakening. Manuscripts from Greece, Rome, and the Islamic world offer insights into mathematics, medicine, philosophy, and astronomy. Scholars painstakingly translate, copy, and study these works, sometimes for decades, preserving knowledge that might otherwise have been lost. This labor is slow, reflective, and profoundly human, a testament to the careful cultivation of wisdom across generations. In their quiet study, Renaissance thinkers breathe new life into ideas that had lain dormant, connecting the past to the present and laying foundations for future exploration. Exploration extends beyond thought to the physical world as well. Mariners set sail along distant coasts, navigating oceans that had once seemed impenetrable. The voyages of explorers like Columbus, da Gama, and Magellan expand human understanding of geography, climate, and culture. Each journey is both literal and symbolic, a step into the unknown guided by maps, instruments, and intuition. These expeditions illuminate the vastness of the planet and the limits of human knowledge, offering glimpses of other lands, peoples, and ways of life. With each new horizon, humans confront the tension between familiarity and mystery, certainty and discovery. Trade and cultural exchange flourish in tandem with exploration. Cities that once were quiet trading posts become vibrant centers of commerce and learning. Goods, ideas, and technologies flow across continents, enriching distant societies. Printing presses reproduce knowledge on a scale never before possible, allowing thought, art, and science to reach wider audiences. Literacy, curiosity, and observation spread gently yet persistently, empowering individuals to explore and interpret the world in ways both personal and collective. The currents of knowledge move quietly but inexorably, linking human communities in a shared pursuit of understanding and creativity. Art continues to flourish, bridging observation with imagination. The delicate techniques of perspective, chiaroscuro, and proportion reveal the intricacies of the natural world and the subtleties of human emotion. Poetry, music, and literature explore the depths of the human heart, questioning, reflecting, and celebrating the richness of experience. Even the act of creation itself becomes a meditation, a gentle interplay between skill, patience, and curiosity. In these expressions, humanity touches both the tangible and the transcendent, illuminating the interplay of light and shadow, known and unknown, within every moment. Science, art, and exploration intersect in ways that are subtle yet transformative. Anatomical studies inform artistic representation, mathematical principles guide architecture, and astronomical observation influences navigation and philosophy. Each discipline contributes to a delicate web of understanding, revealing the interconnectedness of human endeavor. Knowledge is no longer confined to a single field or region. It flows like a river, linking minds, cultures, and generations in a shared journey toward comprehension. This integration of ideas marks a profound turning point, where human curiosity begins to extend systematically into every aspect of life. Even as innovation and exploration illuminate the world, uncertainty remains ever present. Disease, conflict, and natural disasters remind humans of their fragility. Yet these challenges also provoke reflection, adaptation, and ingenuity. The Renaissance is as much about resilience and quiet perseverance as it is about brilliance. Humanity learns to embrace both the known and the unknown, understanding that each discovery opens new questions and possibilities. The interplay between light and shadow, knowledge and mystery, becomes a central theme of this era, inviting both wonder and contemplation. Imagine walking through a Renaissance city at dusk, when the fading sunlight glints off canals, tiled roofs, and marble facades. Artisans labor in workshops, scholars debate softly in courtyards, and students read by the gentle glow of lanterns. The air is alive with the hum of activity and thought, yet there's a calm rhythm underlying it all, a steady pulse of inquiry, creativity, and reflection. Every step along the cobblestone streets, every glance at a sculpture or painting, every quiet conversation carries the legacy of centuries of human effort, observation, and imagination. In this harmony of action and contemplation, humanity bridges the past and the future, illuminating the currents of change that flow quietly beneath the surface of history. The Renaissance teaches us that progress is both careful and cumulative. It is not simply the result of a single invention or discovery, but the patient layering of observation, curiosity, and reflection. Knowledge accumulates like sediment, each generation adding to the foundations laid by those before. Light spreads slowly across the landscape of human understanding, revealing patterns, relationships, and truths while leaving mysteries intact. The balance of illumination and uncertainty, of discovery and contemplation, shapes a world that is both richer and more complex than ever before. As we leave the Renaissance and prepare to enter the modern age, we carry with us the understanding that curiosity, reflection, and creativity are enduring companions of human life. The era shows that illumination is most profound when paired with patience and contemplation, and that every advance is part of a larger, ongoing dialogue between the known and the unknown. The Renaissance is a bridge, linking the achievements of the past to the possibilities of the future, guiding humanity into a world of exploration, innovation, and ever-deepening understanding. The Industrial Revolution emerges like a subtle tremor beneath the steady flow of human history, a quiet yet profound shift that would forever alter the rhythm of daily life. The serene landscapes of pastoral villages gradually gave way to the hum of machinery, the rise of chimneys, and the glow of molten metal in distant foundries. While the change was gradual, its impact rippled across societies, economies, and minds alike, reshaping the way humans worked, traveled, and even thought about time itself. It is a period marked by contrast. The promise of progress and abundance exists alongside the harsh realities of labor, pollution, and social upheaval. In this tension, humanity learns anew the delicate balance between ingenuity and responsibility, creation and consequence. The heart of industrial transformation lies in the mastery of energy and mechanics. Steam engines, watermills, and later electricity power machines that multiply human effort beyond imagination. Factories hum with synchronized activity, spindles and looms weaving textiles at unprecedented speed, while iron rails stretch across landscapes, connecting towns, rivers, and cities with a newfound efficiency. The very air seems charged with potential, as if the movement of cogs and pistons awakens the latent power of human ambition. With each invention, humans learn to harness forces that were once the domain of nature, translating observation and experimentation into tangible, transformative power. Yet the rise of machines brings with it profound changes in human labor. Work becomes more structured, repetitive, and regimented, shifting from fields and workshops into factories. The rhythms of nature give way to the rigid cadence of clocks and schedules, and communities must adapt to this new order. Life in industrial towns can be exhausting, with long hours and minimal comfort, but it is also a period of opportunity. Urban centers grow rapidly, offering new roles, new trades, and new social networks. The movement from rural life to cities, while often challenging, reflects humanity's capacity to adapt to the currents of progress, balancing hardship with hope, struggle with ingenuity. Transportation, too, undergoes a quiet revolution. Railways and steamships shrink distances, allowing people, ideas, and goods to travel farther and faster than ever before. Markets expand, cultural exchange accelerates, and the world slowly begins to feel smaller. These innovations not only reshape economies, but subtly influence human perception, teaching that distance is negotiable and that connections can be cultivated across vast expanses. In the interplay between technological advance and human experience, the industrial age becomes a meditation on potential and consequence, demonstrating that every game carries with it new responsibilities and risks. Education and knowledge adapt alongside industrial growth. The demand for skilled workers, engineers, and technicians drives the expansion of schools, technical academies, and institutions of learning. Science and mathematics, once abstract pursuits, become tools for practical problem solving, guiding the design of engines, bridges, and machinery. In parallel, literacy and access to knowledge expand, creating opportunities for reflection and creativity even within the busy rhythms of industrial life. Knowledge becomes both practical and liberating, a quiet force that shapes individual lives and collective futures. At the same time, society grapples with stark inequalities and challenges. Child labor, crowded tenements, and harsh working conditions reveal the costs of rapid technological change. Public health becomes a pressing concern as cities swell and sanitation struggles to keep pace. These shadows remind humanity that progress is rarely linear or without consequence. It is within this tension between innovation and adversity, light and shadow, that resilience, reform, and reflection emerge. Social movements arise quietly but persistently, advocating for justice, safety, and human dignity, illustrating that the human spirit seeks balance even amidst transformation. Art and culture adapt to this new era, reflecting both marvel and anxiety. Literature, painting, and music explore themes of urban life, human labor, and the contrast between nature and machine. Poets and novelists capture the rhythm of factories, the pulse of cities, and the emotional landscapes of workers, providing insight into lives reshaped by technology. These creative expressions act as a mirror, reflecting the subtle currents of change while reminding observers of the human heart and imagination that persist beneath the roar of machinery. Science, too, takes on new dimensions, with experiments and discoveries accelerating in pace and impact. Chemistry, physics, and biology evolve into systematic disciplines, enabling innovations that feed directly into industrial processes. Electricity and magnetism reveal forces that power engines and communication networks. These developments highlight the intimate connection between understanding and application, between observation and transformation. Each discovery carries potential for both illumination and unintended consequence, a reminder that human ingenuity is a force to be wielded with care and reflection. Even as the world grows faster, the rhythms of nature remain a quiet presence. Rivers continue to flow, seasons continue to change, and human life remains linked to the cycles of the earth. Factories and engines may dominate the landscape, but the persistent pulse of nature shapes agriculture, resource availability, and health. Awareness of this connection between the mechanical and the organic becomes increasingly important, teaching that even amidst unprecedented progress, humanity cannot escape the subtle forces that govern life. Imagine walking through an industrial city at twilight, the sky tinged with the soft orange glow of the setting sun mingling with the pale haze of smoke. The steady hum of machinery, the rhythm of wheels and pistons, and the occasional whistle of a steam engine create a cadence unlike any the world has known. People move along cobblestone streets, some carrying tools, others returning home from long shifts. Amidst the bustle, there is both energy and reflection, a sense that human life is expanding into new possibilities while also negotiating the weight of consequence. Every step, every sound, every motion is part of a grand, intricate rhythm that balances creation and cost. The industrial age reminds us that human progress is never solely a matter of invention. It is a careful negotiation with circumstance, ethics, and imagination. Machines amplify capacity, knowledge expands reach, and cities grow in complexity. Yet at every stage, humans are called to observe, adapt, and reflect, to balance ambition with caution, ingenuity with care. In the steady hum of gears and engines, in the glow of molten metal and the clatter of wheels, there is a meditation on both power and fragility, a quiet lesson about the responsibilities inherent in creation. As we leave the industrial age and prepare to enter the modern and technological era, we carry with us the understanding that every advance, no matter how bright, casts shadows alongside its light. Progress is measured not only in speed and scale, but in humanity's capacity to reflect, adapt, and sustain. And in this intricate interplay between machine, mind, and world, we witness a defining rhythm of human history, a gentle, persistent negotiation between curiosity, ingenuity, and the quiet responsibility that comes with shaping the future. The Industrial Revolution marks one of the most profound turning points in human history. In the span of just a few centuries, the world was irrevocably transformed from agrarian economies to urbanized, mechanized societies. It began in the late 18th century and continued into the 19th century, reshaping everything from how we worked to how we lived, communicated, and perceived the world around us. In many ways, the Industrial Revolution represents the pinnacle of human ingenuity. It was a period when technology and innovation moved forward at an unprecedented pace. Steam engines roared to life, factories sprung up in every city, and cities themselves expanded and grew, their skylines marked by smoke and industry. For the first time in history, production was no longer limited by the availability of human labor or natural resources in the same way it had been for millennia. The revolution had not only economic and social consequences, it also reshaped the very fabric of human existence. But, as with all periods of rapid transformation, the story of the Industrial Revolution is not simply one of progress. It is also a tale of struggle, inequality, and unseen costs. The same engines that powered factories also powered the rise of child labor and exploitation, as the demand for labor skyrocketed in the newly industrialized cities. The factories that brought wealth to some also caused immense hardship for others. For all the technological wonder and economic growth, there were deep social and environmental consequences that were only fully understood decades later. The story of the Industrial Revolution is filled with contrasts: light and shadow, progress and destruction, wealth and poverty. While steam engines were reshaping the landscape, they were also contributing to the rapid rise of pollution. In the same way that the mechanical loom revolutionized textile production, it also led to the harsh working conditions of factory life, where the air was thick with smoke and the noise was deafening. It's a story of how human invention could both uplift and enslave, depending on whose perspective you looked from. At the heart of the Industrial Revolution were the groundbreaking inventions that changed the world forever. The steam engine, developed and refined by pioneers like James Watt, became the engine of the revolution itself. It allowed for machines to operate without the reliance on natural forces like wind or water, which had limited previous industries. This newfound freedom for nature's constraints unlocked a new era of mass production. Factories could now operate on a continuous, ever-expanding scale. Production lines, standardized processes, and mechanized systems reshaped entire industries, from textiles to coal mining and even agriculture. One of the most significant aspects of this period was the birth of the factory system. The mechanization of production meant that goods could now be produced faster, cheaper, and more efficiently than ever before. This radically altered the structure of society. In place of small workshops and local artisans, there were massive factories where workers performed specialized tasks on assembly lines. It was a shift from craftsmanship to mass production, one that also meant the division of labor became more rigid, with specialized roles that left little room for creativity or skill. The rise of the factory system ushered in an era of urbanization, as people flocked from rural areas to cities in search of work. The industrial cities grew at an astonishing rate, creating bustling centers of activity where progress and poverty coexisted. Yet, as cities grew, so did the stark contrast between the rich and the poor. The wealthy benefited from the economic boom, but the workers, those who powered the engines of industry, faced harsh, often grueling conditions. Labor laws were non-existent, and workers had little recourse for the injustices they suffered. Child labor was widespread, with children as young as 5 or 6 working long hours in dangerous conditions. The air in industrial cities was thick with smog, and the rivers, once pristine, became polluted with waste from factories. The workers, living in cramped, unsanitary conditions, had little choice but to continue working in these dangerous environments. The gap between the industrialists who profited from the new economy and the workers who powered it grew wider by the day. But beyond the evident hardships, there were other, more subtle consequences of industrialization that unfolded over time. As more and more people moved to the cities, traditional ways of life began to fade. The bonds of rural communities, where people lived and worked in close proximity to one another, weakened as individuals became more isolated in the crowded, anonymous urban sprawl. What was lost in this shift was more than just land. It was a sense of connection to nature, to the land, and even to one another. The very fabric of human existence began to unravel in ways that would only be fully understood later in history. Yet even as the Industrial Revolution was reshaping society, there was a sense of mystery and wonder surrounding some of its innovations. The rise of new technologies, like the steam engine, the spinning jenny, and the power loom, were sometimes seen as almost magical in their power. How could something so small and seemingly simple unlock such vast changes? Was it the sheer brilliance of human creativity? Or is there something else at play, something more mysterious, that drove the explosion of innovation during this period? The speed and scope of technological change seemed almost otherworldly, as though humanity had tapped into some hidden well of potential. In parallel with the rise of technology came the birth of new economic theories, including capitalism in its modern form. The Industrial Revolution is often credited with giving birth to the economic system that now governs much of the world. Thinkers like Adam Smith, who championed the idea of the invisible hand of the market, provided the intellectual foundation for the industrialized world. As factories grew and capital flowed, wealth was concentrated in the hands of a few, but so was the power to shape society's future. Yet, even here, there is an underlying mystery. How did such a shift in economic philosophy take root so rapidly and so universally? Was it the natural consequence of human progress? Or was there something deeper, more systemic at work? The environmental cost of industrialization also became apparent only much later. The rivers, once lifelines for communities, became little more than conduits for waste. The air, once clear, became thick with the smoke of factories, making it harder to breathe, even for those who lived in the cities that housed the factories. Pollution became an invisible, yet insidious, companion of industrialization. But the true scale of environmental destruction would only become clear in the centuries that followed. Looking back, the Industrial Revolution feels both like a miracle and a curse. It unleashed an era of unprecedented growth and technological marvels, but also a time of exploitation and environmental degradation. The shadows of its more sinister impacts are still visible today in the form of the ongoing struggle for workers' rights, environmental justice, and the ever-expanding divide between the wealthy elite and the working class. In the end, the Industrial Revolution was not a singular event, but a process, one that continues to shape the world we live in today. Its mysteries, both the visible and the hidden, still unfold before us. The machines that once transformed the world now sit quietly, remnants of a time when human ambition reached new heights. Yet the questions raised by the revolution remain. Was the price we paid for this progress too high? What were the costs of the wonders we created? In a sense, the Industrial Revolution never truly ended. It continues to echo through time, its impact felt in every factory, every machine, and every technological breakthrough. We are still living in the world that the Industrial Revolution built, and as we continue to push the boundaries of innovation, we must ask ourselves, are we on the verge of another revolution? And if so, what mysteries will it leave in its wake? The 20th century brought with it both unparalleled progress and unimaginable destruction. The modern age, often defined by its breakthroughs in technology, medicine, and culture, was also marked by two world wars that devastated entire continents and reshaped the global order. These wars, the First and Second World Wars, are widely recognized as defining events of the 20th century, yet despite their extensive documentation, numerous mysteries continue to surround them. How did such widespread conflict arise, and what deeper forces were at play in shaping the course of history? World War I, often referred to as the Great War, began in 1914 and set the stage for a century of political, social, and economic upheaval. What started as a localized conflict between two groups of nations quickly escalated into a global struggle, drawing in countries from all corners of the world. The war is often framed in terms of the tragic loss of life and the unprecedented scale of destruction. But there's also an underlying mystery in the way the war unfolded. What was the true cause of this global conflict? Was it merely the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand of Austria, as we are often told? Or were there deeper, more hidden factors, political ambitions, secret alliances, and economic tensions that pushed Europe to the brink? While historians have extensively examined the causes of World War I, some questions still linger. The conflict saw the use of new military technologies, machine guns, tanks, and chemical weapons, which forever altered the nature of warfare. The war's horrors are well documented, yet much remains unknown about the psychological toll it took on those who fought. What happened to the men who returned from the front lines? How did the war reshape society in ways that are not immediately visible in the historical record? The effects of World War I would be felt for generations, both in the physical scars it left on soldiers and in the political vacuum it created in Europe. The aftermath of World War I laid the groundwork for World War II, a conflict that would prove even more devastating. World War II began in 1939, and it was the result of a complex web of factors: the failure of the Treaty of Versailles, the rise of totalitarian regimes, and the unrelenting ambition of Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party. But despite the well-known causes of the war, there are still mysteries surrounding its origins and key events. How did Hitler rise to power so quickly in a country still reeling from the economic devastation of World War I? What role did secret alliances, covert operations, and intelligence networks play in the war? And perhaps most hauntingly, what role did ordinary people play in the atrocities of the Holocaust? The Holocaust remains one of the most painful and mysterious chapters in human history. While the scale of the atrocities is well documented, the question remains, how did a civilized society, one of the most advanced in Europe at the time, become complicit in such evil? What allowed an ideology of hatred to take root so deeply within a nation's psyche? The true motivations behind Hitler's plans for genocide, his strategies for implementing the final solution, and the role of collaborationist governments remain shrouded in mystery. Despite the mountains of evidence and survivor testimonies, there are still aspects of the Holocaust that defy comprehension, leaving a haunting question mark over human history. World War II also saw the rise of new forms of warfare: blitzkrieg tactics, aerial bombardment, and the use of nuclear weapons. The dropping of atomic bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki in 1945 ended the war in the Pacific, but left behind profound mysteries. How did the U.S. government decide to use such a devastating weapon? Was it the only option available to end the war, or was there another motivation behind the decision? Even decades later, the ethical implications of nuclear warfare continue to stir debate, leaving a shadow of uncertainty over one of the most controversial acts in military history. The aftermath of World War II was marked by the beginning of the Cold War, a new type of conflict defined not by direct military engagement, but by political tension, espionage, and a race for technological supremacy. The two superpowers, the United States and the Soviet Union, engaged in a global struggle for influence, often through proxy wars, intelligence operations, and the constant threat of nuclear annihilation. It was a period defined by secrecy, covert operations, and shadow wars, with both sides building a network of spies and double agents. The mysteries of the Cold War lie not only in the ideological struggle between capitalism and communism, but in the covert actions that shaped world events. The Cuban Missile Crisis in 1962, for example, brought the world to the brink of nuclear war, yet much of the negotiation that took place behind the scenes remains classified or unclear. What truly motivated the Soviet Union to place missiles in Cuba, and how close were the superpowers to launching a nuclear strike? Similarly, the role of espionage in shaping the Cold War is shrouded in mystery. Who are the key players in the intelligence world, and what secrets do they hold? Many of the most important figures and events of the Cold War are still veiled in secrecy, as governments on both sides of the Iron Curtain held tightly to their secrets long after the conflict ended. Even after the Cold War came to an end, the modern world has remained haunted by the legacies of these wars. The military-industrial complex that flourished during World War II and the Cold War continues to shape global politics and economics to this day. The advances in technology that emerge from these conflicts, from nuclear power to radar and jet propulsion, have revolutionized the way we live. But they have also raised questions about the price of progress. As we look at the history of these wars, we must ask ourselves, how much of our current world was shaped by the shadows of past conflicts? How much of the peace we enjoy today is built on the foundations of violence, secrecy, and compromise? The mysteries of war extend beyond the battlefields. The lives of soldiers, civilians, and political leaders during and after the Great Wars are full of hidden stories of survival, trauma, and resilience. There are countless accounts of individuals who lived through these turbulent times, yet whose stories remain untold or forgotten. What is the true cost of war, not just in terms of lives lost, but in the psychological scars carried by those who survived? And how do these untold stories shape our understanding of history? In the modern age, war has not only been a force for destruction, but also for transformation. It has reshaped societies, redrawn borders, and altered the course of human progress in ways that are still unfolding. Yet, despite all the history we have written, we still cannot fully comprehend the forces that drove the Great Wars, nor can we fully understand their lasting impacts. The mysteries of World War I and World War II, the reasons behind the rise of fascism, the strategies behind military decisions, and the psychological toll on those who lived through these times, continue to provoke questions that, perhaps, will never have clear answers. In the end, the mysteries of the Great Wars are not just about what happened during those years, but what they left behind: a world forever altered, a society haunted by loss and destruction, and a deep, lingering uncertainty about the future. As we look back on these events, we are left with the question, how much of what we understand about the modern world is shaped by the ghosts of the past? The space age began with the shock of Sputnik in 1957, igniting global curiosity about what lay beyond our world. The ensuing space race was driven by both competition and wonder, with the United States and the Soviet Union pushing technological limits to reach the stars. When Apollo 11 landed on the moon in 1969, Neil Armstrong's famous words, "One small step for man, one giant leap for mankind," encapsulated the triumph of human ambition and ingenuity. But the mysteries of space didn't end with the moon. The question of whether life exists beyond Earth continues to captivate. As we send robots to explore distant planets like Mars, the quest to find extraterrestrial life persists. Yet, there's a lingering mystery. If we do find life, will it resemble us in any way, or will it defy all our expectations? Space exploration also raises questions about our future. Will we one day colonize other planets? If so, how will humanity adapt? The space age may have begun with national pride and competition, but it has opened up the far more profound question of what it means to explore the unknown. As we push deeper into the cosmos, the mysteries surrounding space may grow only more complex, but our desire to answer them seems unrelenting. The digital age has transformed how we live, work, and interact. With the advent of the internet in the 1990s and the rapid growth of social media, the world became more connected than ever. Yet beneath this connectivity, questions of privacy, control, and influence have emerged. Who truly controls the vast data we generate, and how is it used to shape our lives? Artificial intelligence, now integrated into everything from smartphones to self-driving cars, has raised similar mysteries. Will AI enhance human life or surpass our intelligence, creating unforeseen consequences? As we lean more on algorithms, we must ask, are we in control of the technology we create, or is it beginning to control us? The future of humanity in the digital age is fraught with unknowns. Automation and AI are reshaping labor. But what will work mean in a world where machines can do much of the work we once did? Will technology free us or create a future of greater inequality? The digital age has raised more questions than it has answered, and the journey ahead may be defined by the mysteries we are yet to understand. As we look toward the future, we are confronted by profound questions. The digital age, space exploration, and AI have all raised mysteries about what it means to be human. Will we merge with machines, or will we remain as we are? The future of human identity, shaped by technology, is unknown, and it brings with it new ethical dilemmas. Our legacy on Earth is equally uncertain. Climate change and environmental degradation challenge our ability to preserve the planet, while the push to colonize space raises questions about how we will treat other worlds. Will we repeat past mistakes, or will we act as caretakers of the cosmos? The future may also bring new understandings of consciousness and reality. As we unlock the brain's mysteries and venture into the realm of quantum physics, the true nature of existence may finally begin to unfold. Yet, for all our advancements, the mysteries of the future remain vast. What world will we create? How will we shape our legacy? As we move forward, we must remain mindful of the questions that will guide us, for the answers may shape not only our future, but the future of all humanity.